just what you want. You're the one I trust. And I always be wrong when you need some loving, baby. No one else.
Put you down.
Hey guys, I'm Sai and welcome to a very special championship call-in show. Let's have a little experiment. I do not know how this is going to go, but we'll give it a whirl. Thank you for joining me. I'm Sai, if you do not already know. This is A.C.E Podcast Nation, and this is a special championship show. Maybe a little tester for future shows, who knows? But we are live on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. A.C.E Podcast Nation, if you're not familiar, is home to many great shows and series featuring top guests, expert analysts, and more. So do give us a follow on social media. Subscribe to that YouTube channel. Really helps us out. Click the bell for notifications so you never miss a show. And of course, drop a like on the video so that helps us move up the search results and the old YouTube algorithms, as it were. If you prefer your podcast in audio format, every single podcast produced by A.C.E Podcast Nation, every single series, plus all the ones that have previously been released, all available through the Sports Social Podcast Network, the UK's first dedicated sports podcast network. So do find them, give them a little follow, tell them that we sent you, and of course, check out all of our previous shows. Just as we wait for a few latecomers, a few stragglers, and our first caller, may I add, we'll have a little charity Super 6 update. So this year, the channel is supporting a Super 6 prediction league, raising money for two great charities in Maggie Centre, which is a cancer charity, and Mind Mental Health charity. So let's have a look at this week and who's done well and who has not. Haggis was the main man this week on 15 points, with David Lech a close second, also on 15. We had five people on 14. Well done to them, Jason, Gemma, Mike, Will, and Moana's biggest fan, Mr. Robert Boyle. Lee Jarman had a cracking week, topped the celebrity table, just ahead of Cohen Griffith and Gavin Gordon. Also give a special shout out to Kevin Roper, who was taken ill last week, currently in hospital recovering, but still managed to get a very, very reputable 7 points this week. The next round, Saturday, 3:00. Do not forget your predictions. I direct that to myself, Rodri, and Andy Campbell, because we are the worst for it. So we're going to be talking championship football this evening. I think it's going to be a very Cardiff-heavy show. As expected, I kind of expected that. There's been a lot going on at the club. The fans are not happy. Going to try not to have it too negative. Watch our language, etc., etc. But we'll see how we go. All the slots are full, unfortunately. So literally, you had your chance. You had to book a slot, but they're all in. They're all gone. So we will try to talk about other championship teams as well. McCarthy is gone. I hate to say that I was right again, but I was right again. It was a bad appointment. They should never have given him a long-term contract, and I was proven right. I was also right about Ole Gunnar Solskjaer not being a top-level manager, but that's for another show. Let's throw to our first caller and see what they have to say. But for joining us is Donna Perry from Cardiff.
Hello. Can you hear me now, Si?
Yes, I can hear you now. You have unmuted yourself.
I went back on my phone. I was too big on my iPad anyway. I saw too much of me. You okay?
Yeah, I'm all good.
This
How
is
are
straight.
you?
I'm good, thanks. Obviously going to be talking about Cardiff City.
Indeed.
Since
So-
when did Sol Bamba get so good? Because
Well,
he never used to play like that when he played for Cardiff. He didn't. So he was like man of the match, star man. But on a positive, I always like to start with a positive side. You know me. We came out of the second half. The penalty shouldn't have been a penalty. Smithies couldn't say that it wasn't his fault. That's a positive. Okay. Came out in the second half. We had a good go. That 10 minutes they were storming. Ruben Colwell was man of the match. Another positive. James Collins did try, but his confidence is absolutely shot. But he did try. Aidan Flint hit the post. Another positive. So he had the chances. But when that second goal went in, you could just see they lost the shape, they lost the confidence, they were all over the place, and that was game over. So there were a couple of positives, that we did have a couple of attempts on goal, and we were a bit excited for 10 minutes. But it's dire, Si. What's going on? It's awful.
It's poor, Donna. It is poor, and it's been poor for a while. And I would say that it's been poor before McCarthy came in. And I think we will also talk this evening about how the club's being run and some of the things that have been said from the board members over the last week or so, I think has been really poor. But who would you like to see take over from McCarthy now?
You know me, Si. I got a long list. Anybody Steve Morrison's coming in for these 3 games, and everyone seems to think he's going to have this magic wand. And I'm a bit concerned about Steve Morrison taking over, because to me, we should have someone in now. They must have known McCarthy was going to get sacked. We must have known after 3 games in a row, 4 games in a row, 5 games in a row, lose it. They should have been looking. I'm concerned about him coming in for 3 games, because I think that's potentially a lot of points lost as well. You never know, he may come in, but he hasn't got the experience, has he? So I don't want him to stay unless he comes out and be brilliant, but you've got to have someone tried and tested. I would like somebody like the Roy Keanes, the Steve Bruces, obviously the Frank Lampards. That's because I'm a lady. But the Frank Lampards, the Steve Bruce. Jody Morris has been touted today, and that's again someone I'd be quite interesting, because he did well with Frank Lampard, and he got into the playoffs against Villa, Derby that time before they went down. There's someone like that I really do want somebody. I don't want these older ones now that with these tactics. I want someone to come in with new ideas. But you got to think who's going to take this club on now. Why would you come to this club? We've all seen now how they're saying about there's going to be no money to spend in the transfer windows for the next 2, unless things rapidly change. But because I can't believe that, I won't have that. I can't bear the thought that we're not going to be able to buy anyone for the next 2 games. So who's going to want to come along and take this, especially if you are young and upcoming, because it's not going to be doing your career very good if you come to somewhere a sinking ship like this. So I don't know. This Chris Wilder, is one of the favourites for a lot of people. And he got Sheffield United up, I suppose, and steadied the ship for a while up there before they went down. So he could be. But again, why would you come to Cardiff at the minute?
Yeah, they've got no money to spend on.
No.
They've barely got more than about 14 players really, and then you're going into the very, very young footballers. And I think ultimately it's not a particularly attractive option, and that's why I feel personally we wouldn't attract a Roy Keane or someone, maybe Lampard or John Terry, someone like that, just because there's no money to spend and they haven't got the players. So it's not going to do their reputation any good, is it?
So I just can't see. So maybe someone will end up with somebody at the end of their career again that just wants to try and steady a ship, but they haven't got a point to prove. I honestly think we could end up with Steve Morrison. I do. I really do. With his 3 games, I think I can see him staying. He's a cheaper option. I mean, I don't want Neil Harris. I will go crazy if Neil Harris comes.
I think, Donna, just to finish you off now, if you mentioned Neil Harris, I know Mehmet Dalman was a very big fan of Neil Harris, and I'm not sure he entirely was on board with sacking him. I believe if the Cardiff City bring Neil Harris back now, even if it's just till the end of the season, that could be, it could turn really, really nasty within the football club for the rest of the season, because people did not like Neil Harris before he had a bad run. Then he had a bad run.
I know.
And then he stayed too long. And I just feel like it could get really, really problematic. But we'll see. Donna, thank you very much for joining me. Yeah, you only got a few minutes. There's a big, long list of people.
Oh, man, I wanted to talk for more. All right, it was good. It was fun. I'll do it again. It was great.
Cheers.
Bye.
Thank you, Donna. There we go, Donna Perry. So we'll have another caller in just a minute. But it's going to be, you're going to get a few minutes. I can't have you on for like 15 minutes at a time. It'll be non-stop. I'm going to have a look at some of these comments while we await the next caller. But I'd be interested, Leslie, I saw you in the chat. What did you think of Borough's performance? Were you happy with it? Were you happy with Mr. Warnock, the job he's doing? Evening to everyone. Welcome, Lee Crofts, Rob Boyle, Reese, everybody. It's too many. There's lots of people in today. Lots of people. So more a big shout out to Kay Childs as well. His dad is still battling. Good for him. What an absolute hero. I was so happy to hear that he's still battling away, and hopefully, fingers crossed, Cade's dad will be coming home in a couple of weeks. But we'll all be praying for you, my friend. But good. I'm glad to hear that he's still fighting on. So let's have a look. Let us know what you think. I'm really interested in people's take. So who heard Mehmet Dalman on Talk Sport today with Jim White? So that was I only heard a little bit of it. There was some stuff said. It's a really interesting one. I just don't know. Okay, so right, there we go. So the next caller's been stuck in work, so he cannot join us. So I'm going to have to talk some more. So Cardiff City. So for me, they have really got to make this choice. They've got to get the right choice. If they make a mistake with this selection, people are going to turn, because they've had so many bad choices. You take Warnock out of it, like, since Vincent's Hand's taken over, apart from Malky Mackay, have Cardiff City's board made a good choice as a manager, apart from Malky and Neil Warnock? Like, everything out of that, either side of that, I think has been poor. Played very, very bad in terms of the way the football has been, the tactics, everything. So I really do believe that the board has got a lot to answer for. Their choices of manager has been poor, to say the least. And I just think they've got to get this right, because people are getting fed up. You go on social media, and just as much anger as there was for Neil Harris, Mick McCarthy, the players, particularly after that Swansea performance, I think they deservedly got a lot of criticism, apart from some of the younger players maybe. People have turned now. People are not happy with Mehmet Dalman. They're not happy with Kenneth Cho. So it's going to be an interesting, but we're going to move on to the next caller. Delighted to say that my good friend, Mr. Alan Jones, is joining me. How are you,
mate.
buddy? You all good?
I have got headphones in on this one, so I'm
you can't hear me at all. Go on, have you say,
blind and a bit deaf, but I'm gonna have to just wing it, mate. So I'm just gonna talk to you for 5 minutes, probably. I don't have any feedback, but sound. Simon, I gotta be honest, mate, and I think a lot of people will go along with it. Not many of us have really enjoyed watching Cardiff City since Dave Jones left, and I was one of those people that was very vocal about him, saying he wasn't good enough, he wasn't the man to take us any further. But my God, would I love to see those days back now. Do you know what I mean? Like, we can say about the glamour and, the prestige of the Premier League, but it's disastrous on both occasions. Has anyone actually enjoyed watching Cardiff City since then?
Probably not, mate. Probably not.
Do you know what I mean? It's like, all these names are being sort of bandied about. Surprised Eddie Howe's name isn't being mentioned as much. He'd be a great acquisition. As for the others, like Donna just said, and like you just said, the club is at a laughing stock at the moment. It appears there's no money there. They're making it public that there's no funds available. So who in God's earth is going to take this on with, a ball and chain on their ankles? They've been told there's no money to spend. clearly the squad it's at the moment isn't good enough. And so you got to question yourself, why the hell did McCarthy get given an extra 3 years without being backed in the summer? Because, hang on, let's have a look. Where is it? I can't read this out.
Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, mate.
Hang on. I can't see it, Sam.
All right. Go on, carry on.
I can't read it, Boot. Do you want to come back to me, mate?
No, go on, carry on.
All right, Sam.
Just keep going.
I'll just go back, basically what I was saying then. The writing's been on the wall for a long time since we come out of the Premier League. It's been clear that the money hasn't been reinvested in the club. In a nutshell, the club's been siphoned of any investment it's put in. McCarthy was given a new contract towards the end of last season. He knew then where the weaknesses were in the squad, and he wasn't given any money to be able to address that. So, you got to look at the board then as well. He surely have gone to them and said, well, we need strengthening in these areas, and they didn't back him. So as much as it's been terrible over the last few months, a lot of blame has also got to go to the board, Dalman, Ken Chu, and ultimately Vincent Tan. He seems to have washed his hands at the club lately and spending all his time in Serbia or wherever he is, in Bosnia or wherever he is. And, but anyway, I can't hear anything. I can't. So I hope it's come over all right. So I'll leave you to it, brother, and good luck. Let's hope that we get some sense.
Indeed. There we go. What's going on here? There we go. Alan Jones, big shout out to him. Look at that. What a professional. Did it when he couldn't even hear me. Big shout out. You're right there, Becky. That's the first time I've been called Butte. Probably since the last time I spoke to him, in fairness. But it was all good. That was a lot of fun. I agree with pretty much everything which Alan's just said there. I do feel like Vincent Tan has washed his hands at the football club. You never see, like Mehmet Dalman's taking all the flack at the moment. But it's like all these decisions, they're not just down to him. They have openly got this committee which makes the decisions on transfers, managers, who gets signed, etc. Like, it is what it is. Like, it's not just Mehmet Dalman. Yes, he's the chairman, so he's going to take the flack. Vincent Tan has the final say. And I do feel like he sometimes gets away with some criticism, maybe because people feel that he went back on the rebrand. Maybe that has helped him out a little bit. And also maybe because he is putting, he's keeping the club afloat, whether he's putting investment in and all that sort of stuff. He is keeping the club afloat regardless. What I will say is, one of the comments which I picked up on was Mehmet Dalman said he wasn't critical. It was like a little barb at Neil Warnock, and he said that if you've got a strong manager, then he'll go over the transfer committee, and he cited Emiliano Sala as a example. Now, to me, if that's what happened, that's what happened. But also, the board signed. I think who was it? I think might have been Isaac Vasella. I might be wrong. Oh no, it was Waters. They signed someone over Neil Harris's head. Neil Harris didn't even know he was coming. So you can't have it both ways. You can't sort of have a little dig at Neil Warnock because he went over the transfer committee to get the Salah deal done. And yeah, of course, we know what happened and the tragic circumstances around that. But if you're looking at it just from a football point of view, you can't have a go at Neil Warnock or have a little dig at Neil Warnock for going over the transfer committee's head and then sign a player without what's his name, Neil Harris knowing. So it's problematic. I saw a couple of people saying they would have liked to have joined. Look, I put a post out yesterday and I put a few out today saying you had to book your slot because I haven't got like an actual telephone line for people to phone in set up. Yeah, I will have that in the future if we go ahead with it. But ultimately, you had to book a slot today so I could send you a link and stuff. But if it goes well and people enjoy it, then we'll do it again sometime. Maybe it'll become a regular thing. Who will know? You never know. So I'm interested in the Dave Jones thing because so often he's taken a lot of criticism since he's left. And, some of it's probably because of the way, like, we and Andy used to play about with it and stuff. But the football was good when he played there, and he used to sign this certain type of player, which they were footballers like Jay Bothroyd. He got the best years out of Jay Bothroyd than any other manager in the country. And, even Arsene Wenger couldn't get out a tune out of Jay Bothroyd. So, like, it is what it is. Gareth Parry says, Mehmet Dalman says Salah was over his head and then defends having done the business with the dodgy agents, especially the Willie Mackay. And I think, with that, Gareth, I don't know if you saw the 2 episodes with Mehmet Dalman, which we did, but obviously he was he's no fan of Willie Mackay, shall we say. To me, the football club shouldn't have been doing business with him. No football club should do business with him because he's banned in certain countries, and he still works on transfers, which tells you everything you need to know about the way football is run and whatnot. Just on the Championship generally, for a second, while we wait for our next caller to log in, I was particularly impressed with Middlesbrough player. Forgive me, I don't know what his position was. Martin Pereiro. I thought he was excellent. I was really, really impressed with him, and I noticed that Neil Warnock also singled him out. Swansea lost again, and I think the Cardiff result has kind of papered over the cracks a little bit for them, because I didn't think they were great against us. I didn't think Swansea were fantastic against us. So it was very interesting to see that they lost again this weekend. They've got to be careful, in my opinion. I think they're banging the relegation battle, just as Cardiff City are. So one question I want to put, before I bring in our next caller, is one question I want to put to everyone in the live chat and all the callers who we've got left, is this. Which managers being appointed would be the absolute wrong managers? Which managers would upset you? Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, for a start. I'm only joking about that. But like Neil Harris, there's been rumours of him coming back. Tony Pulis, Sam Allardyce. I don't personally, as I said before, I don't think Sam Allardyce is a viable option. We just wouldn't pay his wages. But that type of manager, Tony Pulis, I think is a very, very likely option. People kind of missing out on that. I think that's likely, if anything, because the board will want continuity and someone who will be safe, and he's about as safe as they get. So let me know who you don't want as well as who you do want. Let's bring in our next caller. I'm delighted to say it is A.C.E Podcast Nation films and TV host, Mr. Jamie Isles. How are you, buddy?
How are you, Si? Oh, good, mate.
All good. All good. So how do you feel about the current situation at Cardiff, mate?
It's a joke of a club, especially like living down here with all the Swans fans. The stick I've had the last week has been just part and parcel of the game, but we've just been made to look like mugs, and the Swans ain't the best run club at the minute with the American owners, and we're worse than them. So it says a lot, really.
Yeah, I think I just put the question. I don't know if you had logged in then, so I don't know if you heard. Like, which managers would upset you if they were to appoint them?
Neil Harris, Rob Page. Not a lot, really.
What about Tony? Yeah, any Swansea player then. What about Tony Pulis? Like, how would you feel about that as an appointment?
It's just same old, isn't it? It's no different. Isn't it? It's just that we got to go looking further afield than these islands. I'm not saying Chris Wilder won't be a good appointment. If Flynn from Newport wouldn't be a good appointment, but let's go further afield. Let's have a look if we can get someone else. We live in a big world with a lot of football knowledge. Let's have a look. Let's have a look around.
So Gareth Parry's just put in the chat, what about Billy Davis, Steve McLaren?
Nope.
I don't know if he means whether he would want them or if he's answering the question of who would upset you. So I don't know which way around.
Oh, no, no, thank you.
Neil Lennon?
No.
Yeah, same as I'm.
The same. I get not to disrespect Scottish football because we've had a lot of good players from Scotland over the years. But it's two-team league. If you can't win the league with Celtic, you're not going to win in the league.
Yes, yeah. Look, and for me, mate, what I would like to see the club do, I said this on the Friday show and the Monday show last week, I want to see the club build for the future. I would rather see a young manager come in, Mark Hudson, Eddie Newton, Craig Bellamy, whoever it may be, someone who's going to...
Mark Hudson's my choice at the minute.
Yeah? So I'd rather see someone like that.
It's like...
And say, don't worry if you get relegated.
No, I'd take a relegation.
Yeah, I would too. I think
honestly, I'd take a relegation. Because we desperately need to win some games. Desperately. And I think if we have a good season in League One, where we win a lot of games, it breeds confidence going into the next season. We can play all like Colwell, and like he's a good player. Give him a season. Just give him the full season now to see what happens.
So the one point which someone made to me, I think it was on the show with Rodri on Friday, was that just because you go down doesn't mean you will automatically come up. And I think sometimes we all look at like the likes of Peterborough United, who go up and down every year. But some people haven't been able to come back up. You look at Sunderland, you look at Portsmouth, and that what you don't want to do is kind of go woo and keep going down. As a fan, in some ways, it would be quite fun to go back down to the lower leagues. But also, those times weren't fun, were they? Let's be honest.
Bit of a controversial one. I'd probably take administration as well at the minute, just to get rid of the ownership.
Oof, controversial, mate. That is. It's a big risk, isn't it, though? Because
I gotta give Vincent Tan his dues. He's put his money in. Like he has put his money in. To be fair to him, all right. But the red stuff was a joke. Whatever. We passed that. Now we're back in blue. Everyone's happy. But if we really want to get rid of the management, the ownership, the only way to do it probably administration. No one's going to take that debt on. You'd be mental. You're not, unless you're a Saudi with all them oil reserve, all that reserves in the bank with your state assets. You're not going to take that on. No. You'd be stupid.
Well,
like you do, the days of the businessman, local business and owned football club are gone.
Yeah.
Football's an international game now. You need international money, and unfortunately, unfortunately, it just doesn't seem to be any investment wanting to come in.
No, and I mean, Craig has put a point here in the chat. He says, Vincent Tan's put in millions. He has saved us, and we will never get anyone to buy Tan out, as it would be 100 million plus, and there are bigger clubs for half the price with a bigger fan base. And I think
Capital City club, a European capital city club.
But
so we should have some sort of interest.
So here's my question to people in the chat and to you, Jim. Like, one of the big things was that Vincent Tan was going to turn all the debt to equity so that we were effectively debt-free. That was like the big selling point that kind of turned people back around to being on side with him. As far as I'm aware, we are not debt-free. Oh, no. So that's a problem for me, but everyone seems to skirt over that. And of course, Vincent Tan is keeping Cardiff City afloat. I get that. But you can't just live off that. Like, Mike Ashley was running Newcastle United well, so they weren't losing money, but he was still a terrible owner. What, like, where's the line? We're a football club first and foremost, but of course we're a business for them. Jamie, before I let you go, mate, right? Who's your choice for manager? Mark Hudson, is it?
Max Hudson. Yeah, Mark Hudson.
If you can't have Hudson, who would you be your second choice?
Chris Wilder. Or I'd go with Chris Wilder and Hudson as assistant.
Okay.
Just to keep the continuity going.
Yeah, interesting. And last question. In one word, will Cardiff City be relegated this year?
No.
There we go. There we go. Thank you for joining me, my friend.
Thank you.
See you soon.
See you soon.
Cheers, Jim.
Bye.
And we're going to go straight into another caller with Mr. Rob Boyle. How are you, buddy?
How are you doing? You okay?
Yeah, Moana's biggest fan is here.
Yeah, man. I brought a mascot with me as well today.
I
couldn't find Moana, so I had to make to a Rapunzel.
Oh, mate, yeah. Oh, mate, you've got to grow up, I tell you. There's something wrong.
Rapunzel.
Wrong, mate. Come on. What's going on?
How's it going? This is cool, isn't it?
It's good, isn't it? So, yeah. So, mate, like Cardiff, what's going on?
Do you know what, right? Yes, the manager's awful. yes, the manager was awful, sorry, and the owner's not much better. But I wonder as well how much influence the captain is having, or like for me, I think personally that wherever the new manager that comes in, we should be replacing the captain as well. As much as a good servant Moz has been, I just don't see him as a leader on that pitch anymore. I just don't feel like his head is in it. So, but then I suppose the other flip side to that is who the hell is going to be captain instead of him? Because, I mean, who else is a leader on? Who else is going to be a leader on that pitch? Do you go Joe Rolls?
No, I was going to say I would give it to someone, one of the younger players, one of the homegrown players. I would give it to probably Joe Rolls in the short term, and then I would give like someone. Maybe I would even think about giving Ruben Corwell the vice captaincy with Joe Rolls as captain, because they care. And you saw that in the last couple of games when some of the other players down tools a little bit. They didn't. And those younger players didn't. So, Rob, you mentioned Sean Morrison. Like I pointed this out a few weeks back. Like he seems to be immune to criticism because he's kind of like a good, he seems like a good laugh. He seems like a nice guy.
Yeah.
And like, I don't doubt that. I don't doubt that he's a sound guy. And I also, by the way, the abuse his missus took the other week after the Swansea game was foul. I was just ashamed, mate, to be honest, to be associated with those people just by football club. But I do feel like he's immune to criticism. You can't criticize him because people get really shitty. But like, I don't think he's been very good this year. And that's why he's been dropped. Like, of all the things you can criticize Mick McCarthy for, dropping Morrison was probably not one of them. Like, Flint has been better. I don't know why. Yeah, but then GD Parry says they're surprised that Bakuna isn't captain because it doesn't matter what he does, he's constantly plays. So it's very the man that can't be dropped, says Alan Jones. Like, who would ultimately what you'd like to do, I suppose, is get rid of some of the dead wood, bring in some players who care, some young footballers, young manager. But it is what it is, I suppose. We haven't got the money to do that. Like, who are you looking at as a new manager? Are you looking at young and a long-term project, someone to keep us up, someone who can, do a bit of wheeling and dealing because we've got no money? What would your choice be?
No, it's not my choice, but I've got an awful feeling it's going to be Neil Harris again. I've got a terrible feeling. There's a lot of rumours going around at the minute that he is going to be because, correct me if I'm wrong, and this, again, maybe hearsay, but we are still paying Neil Harris at the moment. So I think they think that bring him in because we're still paying him essentially for his job. Who I'd want, I mean, Chris Wilder, absolutely, but it's never in a million years he's coming. Just not going to happen. He was only at that game because he's linked with the Birmingham job. Mm-hmm. But I think I would rather go young, and I'm not too against Jody Morris. I think he would be a decent shot. I think I'd take him over. Well, I'm definitely taking him over like things like people like Pulis, Chris Hughton. Don't rate Chris Hughton. Sorry. He had a diabolical spell in charge of Forest, and essentially nearly got relegated. And
look at them now with a good manager.
Exactly. It's funny what happens, isn't it? And I definitely wouldn't want Rob Page. I don't even want him for Welsh job. I feel like it's more of a conversation as who I don't want and who I do want.
That's right. That's right. I was interested to see who you
John
want.
Sheridan right now.
Yes, get in John Sheridan.
CCFC.
Yes.
But yeah, I think we'd go gamble and go for a younger manager. Might be controversial, but I'd even say Flinney as well. I know he splits opinion, but I've always been quite a big fan of his, to be honest. So, but he does split opinion because of his county background or whatever.
But you know what they should have done, mate? When they signed Mick McCarthy till the end of the season, They should have waited until the end of the season, and then they should have got Cooper to come in the summer. But they didn't. They, for lack of a better term, shit the bed because of a story in the rags that McCarthy was going to go to Celtic. Gave him a 3-year deal, and here we are. But ultimately, mate, you mentioned Neil Harris. I know people don't see it happening. I could see Neil Harris till the end of the season, so they could give themselves time to make a decision. What I also said, I don't know if you saw at the start of the show when it came up with Donna, was I feel that will be the breaking point between the fans and this board if they bring Neil Harris back in, mate. I really do. It's going to be problematic for anything. Alan says, if with the state of the club, we're probably still playing Frank Burrows. But yeah, it is a bit of a shambles, mate, to be fair. In one word, Rob, before I let you go, mate, in one word, will Cardiff City get relegated this season?
No.
There we go. Reese says, do get it, holler.
I got one hand on my phone. Hang on 2 seconds.
Top man.
Right. Nice one, man.
Cheers, Rob. Thank you, my friend.
Bye-bye. Cheers,
buddy. And that was Rob Boyle. What a gentleman. Moana's biggest fan. So we got one more caller left to finish us off. So I'm going to go to some of the comments because I've seen some great comments. We've got lots of people in the various platforms this week. So some of the names that have been mentioned in the press: Jody Morris, Lowe, Chris Wilder, Craig Bellamy, Mark Hudson, Eddie Newton. Out of all these names who you've seen, like, who we wanting? I know a few people are saying like Flynn, good shout. I personally don't want Flynn, but only because I just don't know whether I'm not entirely convinced that he's up to the level, and I think it could be a waste. But you never know. However, I also think, so maybe I'm being a bit hypocritical, I also think that Carl Robertson, someone like that. Mark Robbins is one of my top choices. I would love to get Mark Robbins on. So we got one caller left. Some will say you save the best to last. Others will disagree. I will let you, the people, be the judge. But let's bring in Mr. Gavin to the show. Welcome, Gavin.
Hey, my friend. What's happening, Si? Long time no see.
I know, mate. Isn't it? You right, to what?
You good? Yeah, you?
Yeah, I'm good. So,
good.
What do you think of Cardiff's current plight, my friend?
Oh, to be honest, I was happy when we got Mick, but in the Championship or N Division, you can't play 5 at a back side. You've got to go and attack as well for goals. You can't just expect to win 1-0 or 0-0s. And that's all he was doing. He didn't have a clue, to be fair, like Slade, Harris.
Oh, don't take me back to Slade, mate. Jesus.
So on, do you know what I mean?
Mm. I agree, mate.
But I definitely don't want Bellamy there. I'll never go there again.
See, that you've said that in the live chats. That does interest me because he did such a good job with the academy. I know he left with a bit of a sort of a cloud, depending on who you speak to. It was his fault, depending on who you speak to. But I mean, the job he did with the academy is why we've now got 3 or 4 academy players good enough to play in the first team. But I do understand as well why you wouldn't want him, if that makes sense.
Yeah, because attitude.
He's
got the wrong attitude.
He might have matured, mate. He's 40 plus now. And who would you have? Like, who would be your choice?
Chris Wilder, I think it'd have to be, to be honest. Or I wouldn't mind. I can see it. Abaddon and Young. Give them a go. They got the passion. The legends. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, they did. They did pretty well, mate. When they did that temporary job, didn't they? They sort of they did all right. Like, I don't know if Gabs is looking for a full-time managerial gig because obviously he does a lot of media work and stuff. I don't know where he stands with that. But again, the problem is, or not the problem, but it's my opinion that if you're going to bring in someone like that, if you're going to bring in Carl Robertson, if you're going to bring in John Terry or whoever, any of these young managers, Bellamy, whoever it might be, if you're going to bring those people in, you've got to give them a 3-year deal, and you say, if you get relegated, you're not going to get sacked. If you've got to give them a guarantee, and you've got to let them build something. If you can't, you can't just keep sacking managers. yes, Mick McCarthy had to go. Mick McCarthy should never have been given a 3-year contract. They should have waited till the summer to have a look. But
that's because they're desperate, Si, to be honest,
they
my
panicked.
opinion.
They panicked, mate. They panicked. So it's going to be
And-
very interesting.
Go on, sorry. Yeah, they want someone that won't take any crap basically off Tan. Do you know what I mean? Like Malky, I thought Malky was quality manager. And my opinion, if he was still there, we would have stayed in the Premier. It's just Tan didn't like it because he had more power in him over the fans. My opinion.
With Malky Mackay as well, mate, is what you've got to understand is the football was still shite. Like it has been with Mick McCarthy, even with Warnock, it wasn't great. With Neil Harris, Malky Mackay plays the same style of football. The year we went up, we won like 1-0 pretty much every game. But like when you're winning, people don't care about whether the football's good or bad. They only care that you keep winning. You're winning. Yeah. And he was never in the relegation zone in the Premier League until we only went in the relegation zone after he got sacked. And, the morale and the players, everything was destroyed by then. But and a lot of them where they're slagging Tan off. It's right. I'm not being funny. If it wasn't for him, wouldn't have really had a stadium. I know he didn't do it all. And we wouldn't have been in the Premier League. Simple as. Yeah, I know. I agree with you, mate. And I think, look, I've made no secret of the fact that one of the main reasons I don't go anymore is because of the rebrand, and I kind of started to develop new habits on a Saturday. But that kind of killed it for me a lot. But ultimately, he went back on it, and Cardiff City would have been, they would have gone bust without Vincent Tan, and that's a fact. Oh, definitely, 100%. Yeah, I have to do it, mate. To finish off, Gav, with you, mate. How do you think there's any chance Cardiff get relegated this year? I think, so again, my opinion, the best option will be to get relegated and start from scratch. Because some of those players aren't good enough to wear the shirts. To be honest. 100%. Got to get rid of some of that dead wood, mate. But it's difficult to do when you've got no money, innit? If you've got no money, you can't get it. That's the thing, though, Si. I think Tan has got money. That's the problem. But he just don't want to spend. But he's done a good job. Yeah. I personally think I don't think short. Nowhere near it. Yeah, he's done all right. I'll give him that. Yeah. I'll give him that, mate. Gav, it's been a pleasure, mate. Thank you for joining me. Yeah, cheers, Si. Si, before I go, good game, Nasty. I told you, mate. Solskjaer's not a top-level manager. I thought he's shite. Top-level nothing. Top-level nothing. Gavin, there we go. What a top man. I appreciate all these calls. So we'll finish off. I'm going to have a nice little chat to you guys, catch up on some of these comments. And this is the one for me, which is the most important. Alan Jones there says Cardiff City is more important than Premier League. Until people realise that there'll always be a little bit of a divide between fans. I don't really care about the Premier League. In many ways, I prefer when we're in the Championship anyway. Of course, it's nice to win the Championship and go up and all that thing. I just think that I just want Cardiff to be stable and not make my eyes bleed watching them every week as they just launch the ball long. It's interesting. I think it was Gareth Parry who said when I was on about Sean Morrison perhaps being a bit immune to criticism, that he has been playing injured, and I think that's a fair shout. Jody Morris has coached some of the best players in Europe, and he'd be first choice for a few of you, I see. And I think that's a good shout. I'd be happy with Jody Morris. What do we think of Rhys David Evans? John Eustace, Swansea went after him in the summer. They always get their appointments spot on. He's a successful under-23 coach. Wouldn't be a bad shout. Could get a few frees and loans in. Now I think that's a fair shout, actually, Rhys. Not that I want to be particularly copying what Swansea do, but they do get their managerial appointments right 9 times out of 10. And a manager who's got connections within the under-23 leagues and the youth leagues and stuff like this, like Jody Morris, like John Eustace, they're going to be able to bring in these players on loan, and they're going to be familiar with the good young players to get them on loan, to get them in. Donna, I apologise. I didn't ask you if you thought Cardiff would be relegated, but interesting. Big shout out, by the way, to Nottingham Forest. So we would have had one other caller, which would have kind of taken me into the last 5 minutes, but unfortunately, Wiggy was held up in work, which is a bit gutting. So I would have had an extra slot, but we'll see how it goes. But guys, I really appreciate it. Let me know what you think of this kind of layout and having people on. Is this something you'd like to do? I'm going to be chatting with Andy this week about just where we're going in the future and stuff. And, maybe one option, if the championship show is going to change, we could do this type of thing on a Friday. But that won't mean that the Rodri Giggs' podcast is going, because that is flying. The numbers are insane for a new show already, and doing really well. People seem to be really liking that. So that's great. Also, guys, I'd also ask if you haven't already. I was on the Experience Real podcast. I travelled up and went on there with Joe last week. It came out yesterday. If you could check it out, it's the Experience Real YouTube channel, and I believe it's on like Apple and stuff like that. Experience Real with Joe Robbins. Check that out. Just me talking about me, really, and my life and some of the stuff which I've been through and how we got to A.C.E Podcast Nation, stuff like that. Craig Sullivan says, Si, you don't go to games anymore. Would you go if they went down? And do you think the supporter base would remain, or would we have even less fans and even more reliance on Tan, so even more cutbacks? Craig, I will not go back until Vincent Tan has left. That's my personal choice. I said that from the day that they rebranded the football club, but I kind of haven't gone back on it. But it's not just that in terms of why I haven't gone back. I've been back, I think, once, maybe twice, because my son wanted to go on his birthday. So I took him. I bit the bullet and I went and sat in the family stand with him and took him because he wanted to go. And if he turned around and said to me, Dad, I want to go every week, then I would take him, because I know how important that was to me as a kid, how important it is to kids. But I won't also force him now, because my habits have changed on a Saturday. It's one of them. People seem to be enjoying the concept of having people on and fans on, and obviously there was a couple of Birmingham fans who were going to come on. There was a Forest fan who was going to come on. And obviously, we got a couple of Borough regulars. Unfortunately, they were unable to do it this evening. So, I do want it to be a championship thing rather than a Cardiff thing. But it's, at the end of the day, it's the majority of our hardcore fan base is also Cardiff and Middlesbrough. So that's going to be a lot of the calls and people. But as we grow, hopefully we can expand that some more. If you've got any questions, do get them in now, because we've got about 10 minutes or so left. Can I share? Yeah, I'll drop the Experience Real podcast in the comments in a sec. But yeah, good. So I asked all of you guys, all the callers, do you think Cardiff will go down? There's a reason I asked that, because at the moment, obviously before McCarthy decided didn't decide, it was mutual, he wasn't sacked. Before he left, we were flying towards the old relegation zone. And I'm not convinced that we will survive. I think we probably will, but God, they've got to get this appointment right. And part of me thinks that they will maybe go with either Steve Morrison or maybe, like I said earlier, Neil Harris. They might go with someone till the end of the season and then make a full-time decision, which I think is risky, because someone's got to get those players playing, and if they don't, then we can go down. We can go down. Like, nobody's too good to go down. Nobody's too big to go down. So we have to get whatever we're doing between now and the end of the season, we have to get it right. And yes, I think there's probably 3 worse sides than us. But just because there looks on paper to be 3 worse sides, that doesn't mean that we'll definitely go, we'll definitely stay up. I think Derby will go down. I think Peterborough will go down. And then to me, there's 1 space left. Michael Bowen, spot on, mate. He says, if we do not get it right, we are going down. And that's what I think the decision about what they do for the rest of the season, stroke new manager, because they might just bring the full-time manager in. Like, that is so important now. If they cock it up again, we're going down. Because, like, Derby have had a 12-point deduction and they are only 6 points behind us. 2 wins behind us. And Derby County have got a young manager who cares and is getting those players playing. It's one of those, isn't it? So, yes, indeedy. Let's have a look. To be Leslie Coates says, to be honest, even though Derby are bottom, I think they'll come good. I think Rooney will keep them up, which puts even more pressure on Cardiff, because if Derby can stay up after a 12-point deduction, that means there's 3 places up for grabs. And we haven't got a big squad. We get a couple of bans, a couple of injuries. We are, for lack of a better term, screwed, because we've only got about 16 first-team players. So we really have to make sure that we get it right. Yeah, let's get Rooney off Derby. Why not? Ruin their season. Right then, guys. Got any questions? Get them in. By the way, massive shout out to Nottingham Forest. The way they've sort of turned their seat, because they had a dreadful start. I know they lost 4-0 on Saturday, but Fulham, in my opinion, are probably the best team in the league. They beat Bristol City, they beat Blackpool, they beat Birmingham. So before the Fulham game, they were like unbeaten in 1, 2, 3, 6. And I don't think it's any shame to lose to Fulham. But Derby, Craig there makes a good point. Derby are due another points deduction, so they might stay up and then still go down, if that makes sense. Gavin Randall says Mike Ashley wants Derby County. That would not surprise me, because I do think he'll want to get back into it. It's just a case of who he goes with. I wouldn't want him near my club. I wouldn't want him at Cardiff. No way. It's one of those. Kelly says, late to the party. Si, did you cry yesterday after United were battered? I did not cry because I couldn't give less of a. However, I did post on social media that I was right yet again with my hot football takes that Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is not a top-level manager. I said it when he took over to my Man United friends, that he will never work long-term because he is tactically naive and he is not good enough to compete with the top managers. I was right again. I am always right when it comes to football. Hot takes. Reese David Evans says, Mark Hudson knows the club, knows the fans. All the ex-players have said he's a real leader, brought players together and kept morale up. Not only that, Reese, but when he was in charge of Huddersfield, he did an absolutely fantastic job. I've also been told by a few people that he is an absolute fantastic coach, a good manager and whatnot. Leslie Coates, I cannot believe that Middlesbrough is 6-0. However, on the flip side of it, Neil Warnock is a genius, a championship genius. And I wouldn't be surprised if they make the playoffs, to be perfectly honest. What do you guys think? If Mike Ashley took over Derby, is that good or bad for Derby, considering they're in administration? Come on, tell me, peeps. So, Donna Perry says, it's definitely not been me, myself, and I tonight, Simon. No, it has not been joined by all you people. And I saw my wife put a comment in one of the chats saying that the new co-host auditions are going well. Absolutely not. I got a list of people that I've got two lists of. I've got a list of people who want to do podcasts or create series, and I've also got a list of people who I want to bring in as co-hosts and regular hosts. I'm organized, super organized, he says. But yeah, people seem to be enjoyed this evening with the this concept of the fan call-ins. The problem or the worry I had, should I say, beforehand, is a lot of the people who watch my shows, particularly the footballer shows and the Monday show at the moment, since it's been changed, is we have like a regular sort of hardcore audience who watch live, and then a lot of the people who watch like the hundreds and sometimes thousands, they watch like throughout the week in their own time, which is great. I appreciate everyone, and I love it. But to do a call-in show, you've got to have people to call in, and I think I need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, about 6 to 7 people every week. So if I was to do this every week, I would need 7 people, and I wouldn't necessarily want to have the same 7 people on every week, because I don't want it to. I want it to be a championship thing, not a Cardiff thing. But of course, that goes with growth and things like that. If this was going to be a regular show, it will be on a Friday, and we'll move Rodri's show to a Wednesday, because there's a couple of reasons for that. Number one, I think the championship show works best on a Friday before the weekend, because you could talk about last weekend, the midweek games, and preview the weekend coming up. And also I want to bring in or back a regular Wednesday show to keep expanding and growing. But what I will say as well is, one thing I pride myself on is the reason that we've built this community and everything the way that we have, is because of the interactive nature of the shows. And no other podcast or YouTube channel is doing call-in shows and is doing interactive shows like this. No other podcast is doing that. And I pride myself on that. I pride myself on coming up with ideas to do things different. And I had long conversation with my wife over the weekend with some ideas and talking about different stuff, some shorter content, some really interesting stuff, but while keeping everything else as, keep going, keep rotating, keep doing different shows. I spoke to Rodri. Me and Rodri got some exciting ideas about doing stuff in his studio, about doing stuff over the internet, about doing daily stuff, like all these different ideas. Not saying they'll all come along, but just so much ideas. And at the end of the day, what it comes down to is I'll do whatever my wife tells me to. She's the brains. I'm the beauty. So let's have a look at the comments to finish us off. What we got. Craig Sullivan says Mike Ashley will get them to the Premier League, make money, rebrand them, and then make more money. Yeah, would not be surprised. Reese David Evans says, what does everyone think of Mehmet Dalman saying we are looking for extra finances? So does that do we think he means new investors? I believe he probably means new investors rather than Mehmet Dalman. Vincent Tan selling the club. I do not believe that will be the case. Ultimately, Vincent Tan won't sell that football club until he gets 100 million plus, and I don't see anyone paying that for us. Unfortunately, I would love an owner to come in with the sort of money that the Newcastle owners have got, but maybe, how can I put this? Yeah, just someone with that amount of money. We'll leave it at that. Let's have a look. But also, once I've got to get one piece of equipment, And then when I get that piece of equipment, it'll be a bit easier to do the call-in shows because I can just give a phone number and then people can just phone, and I haven't got to book a slot. But I haven't got that piece of equipment at the moment. That's what I was going to say, Kelly. You're right there. That's exactly what I was going to say. Yeah, I want the money. I just don't want that side of it. So I'll tell you what. Here's a question for you guys. Not necessarily championship, but it's an interesting story, and Kelly's just brought it up. Crystal Palace fans put up a banner referencing human rights issues, homophobia, corruption, etc. Towards the new Newcastle owners, but particularly it was obviously about them, but it was directed at the Premier League's fit and proper purpose, or the FA's fit and proper purpose test for owners. So they had a banner, and then the thing which perhaps makes it offensive and problematic is the guy dressed up in full Arab garb with a sword with blood on, obviously to get attention. So what do you guys make of the point that the Crystal Palace people are making? So they're obviously making the point about the fit and proper purpose test, but also they're making the point of, like, same as the Man City owners, some of these guys have got serious human rights violations going on in their past, in their present, probably in their future. Like, how would you feel if someone with serious human rights violations was to take over your football club? Like, would you be okay with it because they're billionaires, or would you have a problem with it? Tell me what you think. So let's have a look. GD Parry says, problem with lots of monies is clubs up the asking price for players. Spot on. Reese David Evans says, I love that banner, and it speaks more about the FA's fit and proper purpose test rather than the Saudis, I felt. Let's have a look. Craig says, yeah, you basically sell the players we have and lease, although still our players as external can't own players, or he could be on to refinance the facilities we own. Yeah, you can't have third-party ownership of players. So I just don't know. Like, they can only be looking for. They've got to find investment from somewhere. I don't know how they do it other than selling players, because they've already sold all their wingers. What are you going to do? Sell all your fullbacks too? Just play 11 centre-backs. Kiefer Moore can't get a game, so he's probably going to go in the summer. And I think, if we're so desperate for money and we're not going to play him, why the hell didn't we sell Kiefer Moore? Yeah, people would have been annoyed, but he's not playing. His price is going down. His contract's running down. And apparently the football club's got no money. Kelly says, apparently Dave Beckham has agreed to be the face of the Qatar World Cup, but they've had to allow and move forward with LGBT and allowing rainbow flags in the stadiums. Well, if that's true, I'm amazed that they would go with that, because I saw that there was some rules that they put out to football fans. I saw this video, actually, of someone from an LGBT, I don't know if it was like an organization or a charity, speaking to one of the kind of the Qatar people involved in the World Cup organization, and they were like listed all these kind of rules about what you can and can't do. And they said, as long as there's no public displays of affection, and that goes for everyone, not just same-sex couples, but also you can't hold hands and things like this. It's problematic. Let's have a look. So what else we got? Football with Brownie says, the banner held up by the Crystal Palace hypocrites were all dressed in clothes made in Asian sweatshops, which are against human rights with their working conditions. I think the majority of everything, isn't it? It's made in some sort of thing. Some sort of sweatshop these days, unfortunately. Let's have a look. Rob Boyle says, whilst I don't agree with the new Newcastle owners, things we use where every day will have had some human rights issues at some point, i.e. Facebook. Yeah, as I said. Craig Sullivan, amazing what 150 million tax-free will do. Yeah, absolutely. Let's have a look. Reese David Evans says, yeah, I agree with this. People worship Steve Jobs like a god. He used child labor, slave labor to build his phones, but our clothes are clothes to child labor, etc. So I do agree. Kay Childs doesn't like David Beckham by the sounds of it. He says David Beckham's still trying to be relevant. All those lives lost building the stadiums. Yeah, that's look. I don't want to get too much into the Qatar World Cup, but the fact that people seem to just not be bothered about, like, people literally have been dying building those stadiums. Like, they're cramming those workers into these apartments. They're all sleeping on the floor and then working all day in the blistering heat to build those stadiums in time for the World Cup. People dying, and all the Western world gives a shite about is the World Cup. Oh, it's in the winter. That's going to really inconvenience our football watching. Well, yeah, come on. Why are people okay with that? Does that say more about people and their morals and whatnot than anything else? I don't know. Donna Perry says, ever since Rodri said that Dave Beckham is sound, couldn't love David Beckham anymore. Yeah. Rob Boyle, those stadiums were more crammed than Arriva trains Wales on a match day. Yes, indeedy, my friend. So, guys and girls, it's been an interesting show. As I said, please do check out the podcast I did on Experience Real. Check them out. I really would appreciate it. I got a lot of time for Joe. He does some great shows, and I really enjoyed, even though it was a bit emotional, kind of talking about some stuff which I've never talked about on camera before. So yeah, it was interesting. Might also have some news on a new brand deal stroke sponsor soon. So I would love if you guys could check that out when it comes out, because it's on like a month's trial. So we need to use those codes. Really help us out. Really help me out. I gotta be honest. So Christmas coming up. There's stuff for men and women. So make sure you have a look for me, please. Guys and girls, it's been a pleasure. I will be back on Friday with Rodri Giggs for our weekly football roundup and talk. It's not even an hour though, is it? We talk for like 50 minutes about football and just give our opinions and stuff. And then you lot get really nosy and ask Rodri anything you feel like asking him. And he answers it because he's cool and he just answers anything really brutally, honestly. And that's the layout of the show. But it's doing well. People love it. He's a top man. I got so much time for him. He's such good fun to do shows with. And to top it off, he's a top guy. Guys, thank you to everyone who got involved in the live chat. Thank you to everyone who joined and called in. As a special treat just for you, the people, I'm going to play us out with the old Andy Campbell Championship theme song. It doesn't mean anything. It's just because I like the song. Please subscribe to the YouTube channel. Thank you. Welcome to all the new viewers and listeners and stuff. Please check out all our other shows. I will see you Friday. You guys rock. A.C.E Nation Army for life.
This podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.
I belong to you.
I belong to you.
Do just what you want. You're the one I trust.
Puts it into an area. Keo, Shambolic!
And I'll always be around when you need some love and baby.
my melody.